Hey butterflies, it's time to get up and move and adapt to your new wings and fly above life's challenges. You were created to soar and manifest the glory of God. Don't you know it's time? It's time for you to walk in your purpose. So no matter where you are in your journey, whether you're a caterpillar in the cocoon or if you're already transformed into a beautiful butterfly, remember, the Lord has already given you His power and every good and perfect gift that is needed to overcome any obstacle that may come your way. So butterflies, rise up and fly high. You're watching Transparency with Janet Sykes.
Hello butterflies. On tonight, we're going to discuss chapter 4. I hope you have your book ready. We're going to be discussing the book. You know the book, Forgiving What You Can't Forget. So on tonight, hold on to your seats because she has a lot that we have to deal with and discuss on tonight. But before we get started, I want to share a quote with our guest butterflies, and we're all going to chime in and discuss it. So here's the quote, ladies, and it says, when you hold resentment towards another, you are bound to that person or condition by an emotional link that is stronger than steel. Forgiveness is the only way to dissolve that link and get free. And that's by Catherine Ponder. And I'm going to say it again. When you hold resentment towards another, you are bound to that person or condition by an emotional link that is stronger than steel. Forgiveness is the only way to dissolve that link and get free. And we know, I'm going to take the first line, which it says, when you hold resentment towards another, you are bound to that person. And that is what unforgiveness does. But we can rest assured that it is not our job to retaliate, to get back at that person, but it's our job to go through the process and allow God to do a work in us that we may get to forgiveness. Now I'm going to ask someone else to take the other part, which is you are bound to that person or condition by an emotional link. What does that mean to someone? You're bound to that person by an emotional link.
Well, it means that it's not physical, so you can't see it. But when you see that person, you can feel it. It's almost like it attacks you and it causes you to react. So now all your emotions are tied into it and your feelings are tied into it. And you start to run things through your mind about the situation repeating itself over again. And it becomes a burden on you and a burden on your spirit. And it actually changes who you are in that moment. And it's just like the old saying, sticks and stones may break your bones, but words will never hurt me. And that is so untrue because words have an emotional tie that lasts far more longer than somebody's whipping you or you getting hurt by someone. So that emotional bond that is there can last a very long time unless we learn how to turn it loose and let it go.
And I agree, because basically when you are tied up or entangled in unforgiveness, it causes a flood of emotions. And so when you think about it, and like you said, when you rehash things over and over in your mind, the emotions, you experience different types of emotions. So that was really good. But it says an emotional link that's stronger than steel. Forgiveness is the only way to dissolve that link and get free. Who wants to take that? Forgiveness is the only way to resolve that link and get free.
I would say that basically forgiveness is the chain breaker.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Basically, there's no other way to put it for me. That's it.
It sets you free. Go ahead, Sister Brown.
And the only way that you can be, if there is resentment, if you don't do the forgiving part, because the forgiving part is basically for you. Every time you see this person, every time something happens, then you're going to keep going back. And once we keep going back, we just overthink and it just causes us emotionally to go a lot of places that we really don't want to go. And so the forgiveness is the crucial, the essential part. in order for us to be freed up in the situation.
That was good. Thank you. Thank you, Sister Brown, because that is so true. Forgiveness set you free. And if we don't get to forgiveness, all of this resentment, all of the hurt, all of the emotions will stay right there. So I found this to be very interesting because this is really in a nutshell what we've been talking about, that resentment, that being bound to the emotion and having that emotional link, and then forgiveness being the only way to move forward and move past the hurt. So let's dive into our book, Butterflies. If you don't have this book right here, you want to get this book. This book is really good. And I'm going to tell you something. Chapter 4 was kind of hard because she really dealt with some things, and it really made me think, did I deal with certain situations correctly? Have I truly moved on? So I had to really look at this in this chapter, and it was just so good. So I don't want to delay. Let's get into chapter 4. And the title of chapter 4, let me get there, because I used a pink highlighter this time, and this is like so bright. I just highlight a lot of stuff. But it says, how is the title of chapter 4, that is how is forgiveness even possible when I feel like this? I love that, because if she's laying it out on that table again, and she's being transparent. Yeah, I know about this thing called forgiveness, but how is it possible when I feel like this? So let's turn and let's look at page 36, which is the first page in the chapter. And it was so good to me. It was so good. But one thing that really got my attention is she went back to her counselor again. It starts out with her being in a counseling session. And so what I have is right there in the middle of the page. But did anybody highlight the beginning of chapter page 36, the first paragraph? Anybody got anything in the first paragraph?
I did. I have that highlighted, and I guess the reason that I highlighted it is because it made me go back to times that I did go to a counselor. Mm-hmm. And some days you've made the appointment, but you don't want to deal with what you have to deal with. Mm-hmm. And so it was very relatable to me that here I am, I'm going to this counselor, but I really don't feel like, I'm not feeling it today. But since I have to do it, then I'm going to go in there. Most of the time you always want to feel like when you're going to the counselor, you want to go in there with a smile on your face, looking all happy and whatever, that type of thing. But, when you get down to the nuts and the grits of that session, then you find out, I have to be transparent in this situation today.
And I'm laughing because a lot of times when I go to counseling, I just know I'm going to talk about a certain thing. And when I go in there, she'll say, okay, what do you want to talk about today? What do you, and she'll let me talk for a little bit. And she said, oh, okay, well, we're going to deal with this. And I'm like, no, that's not what I want to deal with today. I want to deal with that's over here. And so, right. And then, she gets to telling you, well, no, we need to deal with this because I heard you say. And so I think Thea brought this up in the last session, how she went and the counselor started talking about something else and she wasn't prepared for it. And that's what a good counselor does. They listen, but then they figure out, okay, we need to deal with this before we move on. So you brought up a good point because she went there, but that's not what she wanted to do. But also, what I wanted to talk about is when she went there, she said, I felt utterly unmotivated to talk and overly motivated to cry. My hair was heavy with dry shampoo, tangled from a lack of proper brushing. I tried to no avail to smooth it down with my hands before twisting it up horizontally in a top knot. Fully aware, I should have washed it 2 days ago. But who has that kind of energy when life feels suddenly empty out in the most unfair of ways? Empty has a heaviness to it that doesn't exactly motivate one to care what they look like. Right. And it does get to a point I think when you first go through a situation that hurts you, you don't feel like brushing your hair. You don't feel like getting up. I don't know if anybody on here have ever gone through an ordeal like that. I know I have. And there have been times when I did not. But I had a wise lady who told me, girl, get up. You cannot let your stuff go down, okay? You gotta fake it till you make it. And what she was saying is, go ahead and feel the way you do, but you cannot look like the way you feel. And so I highlighted, and I'll put a little note on the side right here saying, you can't allow yourself to go down through the hurt. Through this process, you still have to look your best. And I know y'all saying, well, looks is not everything. But sometimes when you dress up, it just makes you feel better. I know about me, when I go in my closet and I see something I put something on, it makes me feel better. Even if I don't feel like it, when I get dressed, do my hair or whatever, it makes me feel a little better. Okay, I've said enough. Anybody want to comment on that?
Well, I just want to say that, like I said, this introduction part, it's so relatable because it goes back to me when I was really in one of the worst times of my life. And that was one thing that I had to remember, is that I could not let others see, the emotional stress that I was going through. I can remember when I went to work, I made sure that, I had myself together. And it wasn't until after my husband and I reconnected after 5 years of separation. And I ran into one of my coworkers, and we were talking, and she said, Yvonne. I said, yes, that is what was going on the entire time that I was there. She said, well, I would never have known. She said, because you never missed a stroke. But it took a lot of strength. It took a lot of effort. It took a lot to try to keep and pull myself together during that particular time. It's not easy.
It's not.
I could hear my mom saying, come on there, girl, you need to pull this thing together. It happened to you, but it's not the only one. And so you got to get it together and do what needs to be done.
And that
people are looking at you, especially if you say that you're a Christian, they're looking at you. You know what I'm saying? And we should be able to handle things a little bit different. Sure, we are emotionally hurt, but we just can't let it all fall to pieces, because we're saying that God got me and he's in control and all of this, that, and the other. But when you go out there all tore down from the floor down, what is that saying about the God that we said is in control of what's going on in our lives?
Amen. And you know what else? I'm so glad that you said that, because, we're not saying, the butterflies, I want to make this clear. We're not saying that you're covering up. But what we're saying is, while you're going through the process, you have to keep yourself up. You cannot allow yourself to go under. You have to still look your very best while you're going through the process. Because remember, the process is taking place on the inside. And it's going to show on the outside, but God is doing a work within you. Anybody else want to add to that? Does anybody else have anything that they highlighted on page 36?
I just highlighted the bottom when she says, how can I possibly work on forgiveness?
Yes.
When not 1 ounce of me feels like forgiving. And when you're first going through, you may not feel like forgiving.
Yes.
But you have to remember that the forgiveness is for you.
Yes.
It's for your soul, for your peace, for your happiness. It has nothing to do with the other person. The other person is just a distraction for what God is trying to do in your life. So once you forgive and you let go, you're able to move on to where God really wants you to be.
Absolutely. And I think that what you said was, and I had that highlighted too, how can I possibly work on forgiveness when not 1 ounce of me feel like forgiven? I don't want to do this. I may be a total wreck right now, but one thing I'm not fake. That's what she said.
That's
That's
right.
what she said. And you know what? We keep saying that you have to go through the process. And she keeps telling us in order to go through the process, we have to be real with how we're feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know
You
about
have
you.
to acknowledge it.
We have to acknowledge it. But not only that, the thing is that we have to acknowledge it, we have to confront it, but also we have to be real with ourselves. Because we can say it and we can acknowledge it, but if we don't accept it and say, okay, this is actually how it is, we're not going anywhere.
That's right.
Right.
And she said, I'm not going to be fake. I like that. And then sometimes people can go around and act like everything is okay when it's not okay.
It's not.
Right.
And we have to be brave enough and transparent enough to say, no, I'm not okay, but I'm going to be all right. Eventually,
Right.
I'm going to be okay. But right now, no, I'm not okay.
Right. But I think the first part of it is just acknowledging. You have to acknowledge it to yourself.
You do.
You know, you might be in the midst of, but you have to acknowledge this is what is going on in my life. But
Yes.
if I want to move from this point on, then I have to do what is necessary, you know, to cover myself, you know, and to be able to function, although this is going on in my life at this particular time. You know, that's what the enemy wants to do. You know, he comes to kill, steal, and destroy. But we as believers, we have to make sure that we are doing our part. Okay, this is what's going on in my life, but I am going to do what is necessary with the help of the good Lord to move from this point on and go on to see the better things that the Lord has for me in my life.
But you know, Sister Brown, one thing that I did want to mention, and that is a lot of times people fail to really be transparent is because of trust. You know, we
Right.
talked about that trust issue because you really don't want to appear to be weak in the midst of certain people, because when you tell them things are not okay, in our mind, we're saying, we're admitting that we are weak, you know, and right. And we have to be able and willing to say and trust somebody to tell them, okay, something is not right with me. I'm not okay. But I just wanted to highlight here when she said, but I'm not fake. I'm not
Right.
going to walk around like I got it all together when I don't. This was good. This was really good. Thea, did you have anything on 36 that you wanted to add?
Basically, what I highlighted the same thing. And also, the first thing that I highlighted was at the top of the page. And I just highlighted the word walk. Because regardless of how she feels, she's putting forth that effort, making a step, you know, to actually get the help that she actually needs. So that's an important part of it right there too.
Right.
And I think, and you're right, I think that we have to keep acknowledging that it's okay to be there for a little bit, but you got to move. You know, we
Right.
experience it. Yeah, I'm going to stay here for a minute, just give me a time to get myself together. But once I get myself together, I got to get up. I have to get up and keep moving. And I may move slow. I may move slower than someone else, but let me go through the process so that I can fully be delivered, so I can fully move past this, so I can move on with my life. And so that's what we need to know is that some people may not process as fast as others.
Right.
But as long as you're moving through the process, that's what's most important. And I don't want to get ahead of myself because I was going to say something else, but we're going to talk about it on the next page. So with that being said, let's look at 37. On 37, I went right to the top. And it says, I fully expect him to recognize that it clearly wasn't time for me to work on forgiveness. And that's her counsel she's talking about. She's talking about her counsel, and she says, I fully expected him to recognize that it clearly wasn't time for me to work on forgiveness, and that we needed to switch today's focus. There were plenty of other things I could clearly benefit from tackling. Personal hygiene, for example, might be an obvious choice. So again, she wanted to bird walk, or she wanted to have him talk about something else. She did not want to deal with forgiveness. Right. And sometimes when we get in that place, we don't want to budge, but we have to move. All right, anybody else have anything on 37?
But you know, I think sometimes too that we feel that we have to feel some kind of particular way in order for us to to approach this forgiveness thing,
Okay,
you know?
girl, hold on a minute. We'll talk about that in a minute on the next page.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, keep it. Oh, go ahead.
But just so right, and we're gonna talk about that in a few minutes. But anything on 37.
Let's see.
There was one part I had highlighted was, do you have the desire to heal from this?
Mhm.
So he needed to know that, because of the simple fact, if she don't have the desire to heal, then it's basically she's wasting her time. You know, she has to want to heal.
You have to
You know?
want to heal, and you got to
Mhm.
keep going. You want to move past it. Go ahead, Fee. I'm sorry, because I was really keep. It's something good on this page that we gotta talk about. But go ahead, go ahead.
Yeah, and once she said, I nodded my head, yes, I did want to heal. I did want to start making my way out of this pit where everything felt dark and confusing and hopeless. So she realized it's time. But in spite of how she feel, it's time to move forward. She's ready to put it behind her.
After you read this portion, do you have the desire to heal from this? I nodded my head, yes, I did want to heal. I did want to start making my way out of this pit where everything felt dark, confusing, and hopeless. You read that. But what I want to go further and say, but I thought in order to start healing, I needed to feel better than I did about my circumstances and about the people involved. There you go, Sister Brown. When a person's life explodes, people around them have different reactions. You see the very best forms of compassion in most people, but not in everyone. I hadn't just lost what I thought was true in my marriage. I was also trying to navigate the shock of all the unpredictable ways people have reacted to what happened. Now, I want to stop there because that was a lot that we read. Let's go back to when she said, but I thought in order to start healing, I needed to feel better than I did about my circumstances and about the people involved. That was so good. Okay, who want to jump in? Because I want to jump in, but I've said enough. Somebody go ahead and say it because it was so good.
That's what I'm saying. We think that we're supposed to feel a certain way to start this process of forgiving, you know, and for me, especially with all the people that were around me, my church family, my co-workers, and all that kind of stuff, it was, you know, they're seeing, okay, let's see how Brown is going to handle this situation right here. You know, it took a lot trying to get yourself to that point to say, okay, I got to do what I need to do to free myself up and to go on with my life.
And you know what else? I think also a lot of times we don't want to start the process until we feel like, okay, I'm over this. Now that I'm over this and I feel better about him or her or the circumstances, now I can start the forgiveness. But that's not what she's saying. We got to start the process before any of that happened, before the situation changes, before we even hear from that person. We have to make a personal commitment because we love God, because we know what he requires of us. We have to do it first. Go ahead, Nina, because I see you wanted to say something so bad.
It's like we put so much pressure on other people to tell us and dictate to us when we should and when we shouldn't forgive. Even the people that hurt us, we want them to come back and ask for forgiveness and make it all smooth and better, and then we forgive. But that's not how it works in the real world, because they may not ever come back and say that they're sorry. And we can't rely on other people to start the process for us. We have to start it for ourselves.
We do. It's self-satisfying or gratification when that person comes back and says, you know, I'm sorry. And then we're like, okay, well, I forgive you too. And then the process starts. That's not how it's supposed to be. We're supposed to start that process even before any of that happens. Because remember, they may not ever come back.
That's right.
So we have to start this process for us.
That's right.
Individually, not for anyone else. And that's a hard pill to swallow, y'all, because we are waiting for them to realize they're wrong, how they did us wrong, how they lied on us, how they did us wrong, y'all. But
That's
we
right.
have to start.
And like you said, it may come a time, I mean, a time may not come when they can ever come to that point. And so if you're waiting on them, then
You
you're
will never
missing
get
out.
healed.
You know,
Mhm.
you'll never be healed yourself.
That's
That's
right.
right.
That was so good. Oh my
Mm.
goodness. Okay, so Thea, you have any comments? Anything you see on page 37?
No, I think I said what I said a part earlier, but basically, I'll just say this part here. Basically, it's like you taking them off of your hook and you putting them on God's hook. You're just gonna give them over to God, because you realize them being, as long as you hold that against that person or whatever, you just keep hurting yourself, and you're not gonna heal at all if you just keep holding on to it, So it just gets to a point where you just need to just give it to God, as far as like, instead of you holding, let God deal with them.
Exactly.
And it's an emotional tie
Yes.
that has you bound. And that ties into what they say, what she said on page 38.
Okay,
When
wait
she
a
said
minute.
that,
Okay, you want 38. Go ahead.
therefore, I had to separate my healing from their choices. My ability to heal cannot depend on anyone's choices but my own.
That was so good. I had that highlighted. That was so good, because she said I had to separate what? My healing from their what?
Choices.
I cannot dictate what they're going to do, but I had to make a conscious effort to start the healing process. That was so good. Go ahead. That was good. But then she says, my ability to heal cannot depend on anyone's choices but my own. I have to make a conscious effort to go through this process so I can be healed. I cannot dictate what they're going to do, because I'm only responsible for myself. You hear that, butterfly? You're only responsible for yourself. So you can't wait for them. You have to go through this process yourself. But one other thing I wanted to point out, and that is her counselor, he was just so upfront.
Yeah.
He said, do you want to be healed? And although she was at a certain point, she says, yes, I want to be healed. That goes back to what we've been talking about. We already know what we need to do. Right. But it is the counselor or that good friend. But you know what? It's something about those counselors. They will ask you questions and they're just so upfront. And a good friend will too. Mm-hmm. But off the gate, do you want to be healed? Do you want to move past this? And if you do, you got to do the work. Because forgiveness is not going to fall in your lap. We're going to have to do the work. We're going to have to confront. And we're going to have to deal with it and realize this is the problem. I have a problem with this person. I have a problem with this. And I need to know how to get through it. And I have to deal with it and be honest and acknowledge it. And sometimes you don't like what you have to confront and what you have to acknowledge because it don't feel good. But in order to get to forgiveness, we have to do it.
That's right.
Definitely.
That's good. That's good.
The only way to get your freedom.
That's the only way.
And the thing about it too is, like you said, you want them to come and say, forgive me. Mm-hmm. But like I said, at that point in time, they may not be at that point. They may not ever get to that point. But you have to remember, how is that going to affect me? I've got to go on with my life. So like she said, you got to make you have to make some choices. What do I need to do for me to start this healing process with forgiveness?
That's right.
Oh, that was so good, Mr. Brown, because you got to do it for you.
For yourself.
Not for no one else. Oh, girl, butterflies. Did y'all hear that? Ooh, that's speaking to me right there, too. I'm just saying, you got to do it for you. You got to do it for you. So, butterflies, all I want to say is this. We've all had to go through that process. where it took us some time to go through. But we had to realize that we had to do it for us, because if not, we would have been stuck in that with an emotional tie to that circumstance, to that situation. And it's up to you. You got to do it for you. You holding on to unforgiveness, it's not hurting anyone but you.
But you.
But you.
That's right.
But you. Because the other person had gone on and forgot about it, and you're holding on to it. So you got to move on. So with that being said, let's turn the page. And let's look at page 40. Anyone else have anyone? Let me just say that. Does anyone have anything highlighted on page 40? I do, but I just want to give y'all a chance.
Oh,
What do you
yeah.
have, Nina?
I highlighted Jesus had compassion. Jesus had the power. Jesus didn't make healing contingent on other people doing or owning anything. Jesus gave the instructions. The blind obeyed. Jesus healed. The blind man moved forward.
But I think to do this passage justice, we need to go to the top of the page.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so start at the top of the page.
Where that's the part I highlighted. So you go ahead and highlight your part that you started. So
Okay,
I'll pick up.
well, go ahead and talk about it first. Go ahead.
It was just saying that Jesus made a personal commitment to sow into you.
Mhm.
He didn't wait on anybody else. It wasn't determined about anybody else's circumstances or what they had going on. He gave the instructions. We had to do the instructions.
Mhm.
We had, and that's the process, going through the process. And when the process is over, we were healed. So Jesus has a plan for our healing, but we have to do the work.
We do have to do the work, but I like also at the top of the page when it talks about the blind man, and then they said, well, why was he blind? He must have sinned. And Jesus
Yes.
said, Jesus was like, okay, nobody's at fault. We can't blame other people because of his condition. And it says Jesus blew the assumption apart. And it tells us we cannot blame anyone while we're stuck in unforgiveness. Because Jesus wiped that out. He took away all that excuse a long time ago. You know why we stuck? Because we want to stay here.
We want to be.
And we want to put it on somebody else.
We want to blame somebody else.
Right. Okay,
You're not
I can't
healed
move
then.
from this part because you did this to me, you did that to me, and we don't want to move on. That was what the blind man did. He was trying to put it on somebody else.
Yes,
When
he
it's
was.
got to bring it right back to home, to me. Yes.
So in other words, what he's saying is remove all those assumptions. Remove, okay, I don't want to forgive because they did this to me. Butterfly, we all know it hurts. We all know it may still sting. You may still have triggers, which we're going to talk about those triggers in a few minutes. But just know, take away all the blame. Take away casting all the fault on someone else, and let's take responsibility for where we are right now. Some of you are sitting in unforgiveness, and you've been sitting in it and stewing in it for years. It's time to let it go. It's time to let it go.
Yeah.
All right. So anybody else? That was good, Nina. Anybody else have anything on 40? Because I want to see if somebody else has something I had highlighted on 40. Anybody else want to share what they had on 40?
For me to move forward, for me to see beyond this current darkness,
I got
it's
that.
between me and the Lord.
Go ahead, Thea.
I don't need to wait on others to do anything or place blame or shame that won't do anyone any good. I simply must obey whatever God is asking of me right now.
Stop right
God
there.
has given me a new way to walk.
Stop right there. That was enough right there. That was so good. Okay, so Thea, before you go on, talk about what you just read. What did you have for that part?
Basically, basically, it's just like they say, it's just me and the Lord. Really, it's nobody else got anything to do with it. even though that person may have hurt you, but ultimately, I got to give account for myself, and I need to be able to speak on what I did, and not on what others did to me. It's based off of my actions towards them,
But can I just
regardless of what they did.
And I want to say this before you go on. I like the part when she says, I don't need to wait on others to do anything. Okay, I know what comes afterwards. We don't have to wait on anybody else to do anything or put the blame on anybody. We have to do our part and do what God is requiring of us, and that is to forgive and allow him to take us to the process where he can heal us and restore us. Okay, Thea, take it from there. That was so good. Keep going.
Yeah, and the part about I simply must obey whatever God is asking of me right now. A lot of times we want to wait for others to do what we think they should do. But at the same time, if maybe God is not dealing with them the same way he's dealing with you. So you need to obey what God is telling you to do right then and there instead of wait on somebody else.
And I think that's good. I know we're going to keep going, but I'm going to just say, I'm going to be real with y'all though. Let's take the mask off. A lot of times when God tells us to do something, we don't do it right away. I mean, we're going through this process. We know we're supposed to forgive, and we're taking those gradual steps. But, sometimes we sit on it for a minute. God, I hear you. God, I'm praying. God, help me, Lord. Jesus, help me, Lord. But we just need God to push us a little bit. And sometimes it takes us a little longer. I don't care who you are. We all, every time, in every situation, we don't act on what God tells us right away.
And Janet, that's funny because I recall I was at church and I was in the choir stand, and this young lady had hurt me so deeply, and God was telling me to go and pray for her. And me and God had an argument right in the choir stand. I said, God,
I believe it.
You cannot be asking me to go and pray for her. You know what she did. I mean, we were literally arguing. I was in tears. Every step I made towards her, I was like, God, I can't do this, God. I don't believe you're asking me to do this. It was in front of the whole church. The whole church knew what had happened. The whole church knew what was going on. And I had to humble myself and hurt in tears and wrap my arms around this young lady and pray with her at the altar, because I knew she was hurting too. I knew that. But she had hurt me to my core.
Yeah.
But I had to do what God had told me to do. And it took me a few minutes because, like I said, I argued. I said, God, no, I'm not. You don't want me to do that. You must be talking to somebody else. I must be hearing your prayer to somebody else. I'm not doing that.
But you know what? That just lets us know that sometimes God has a sense of humor. It may not be at that moment when he was talking to you and told you to go and pray for her. Yes. And so many times God will speak, but then I know for myself, I have to make it personal. I said, God, I know not that. Yeah. You don't want me to do that. Yeah. You don't want me to go over here and do that, but it's a process.
It's a process.
And as a result, trying to get through the process of forgiveness, I asked God now, I said, God, I'm praying and I'm asking you for guidance and direction, even with this thing of forgiveness, but let me be attentive and listen because I want to do it Yvonne's way, right. But we need to listen, be attentive. Okay, you asked him for guidance and directions, how to handle this situation. Listen. And even if it, like she said, like Nina said, he may come out and say, you need to do this. But if we do it, we'll get so much further through this process of forgiveness, doing it his way, than us trying to do it our way.
And not only that, it delays the process. It delays
Right.
the process when we do it our way. And you know, I just had to stop and say that. And I also want to say, don't allow anyone, Butterfly, to rush you through your process, because you're ready when God says you're ready. When you'll know when you're ready. But stay in the process and do the work. That was so good, y'all. That was good. Okay, Thea, back to you. Keep going. Go ahead, Thea.
No, just to say something, like she said, if we do it our way, we may not never even do it.
That's right. But I want to pick up where you left off. It says, God has given me a new way to walk. And God has given me a new way to see his forgiveness. And it is beautiful. I have to place my healing in the Lord's hand. I need to focus on what I can do to step towards him in obedience. And forgiveness is what he's asking of me. That was so good right there.
Right.
So we can do
Definitely so.
on our own. But we are going to have to submit unto the authority of our Lord Jesus Christ and allow him to do the work in us, because we can't do it. Because if we do it in our flesh, honey, please, later, okay?
That's right.
When you come back and tell me you sorry for what you did to me, then I forgive you. But because
Then I'll think about forgiving you.
I would think about forgiving you, talk to the hand, honey. But let me just say that we are submissive to the Lord Jesus. We allow him to do it. Is it going to be a continual battle? Of course, because we're still in his flesh.
Yes.
But we have a mind to please Christ. So that was so good what she said right there. But as you can see, I got a little sticky note and I got it highlighted on this next page.
That's what mine look like.
Yes.
About this next page, because it's a lot of meat in this next page. And so I'm going to go first, but I'm not going to do the whole page. I'm going to stop and let somebody else take over. But I have at the very beginning, she says, I must separate my healing from others' repentance or lack thereof.
Yes.
So, in other words, she says, my healing is not going to be predicated on someone asking for forgiveness or not coming at all. But I'm going to keep going in this process. She said, my ability to heal cannot be conditioned on them wanting my forgiveness, but only on my willingness to give it. I can only go through this process if I forget about what I think they owe me, and if whether they repent, whether they don't, or thereof. But my forgiveness is not going to be conditional. When I say I'm going to forgive, I'm going to forgive, and it's predicated on my willingness to forgive them and let it go. That was so good to me.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to stop there and give somebody else an opportunity. What did y'all have highlighted on page 41?
And I kept right on down the next paragraph, and I have to separate.
Go ahead, Sister Brown.
I have to separate my healing from any of this being fair. My ability to heal cannot be conditional on the other person receiving adequate consequences for their disobedience, but only on my obedience to trust God's justice, whether I ever see it or not. My healing is my choice.
That was so good to me, because one thing she said, okay, go ahead, Sister Brown, I'm gonna let you talk. I'm gonna stop talking for a minute. Go ahead.
It always comes back. We have to make the choice. We have to make the choice. If we want to move forward in this forgiveness process, we have to make that choice. And especially those of us who are believers, God says that we have to do what? Forgive.
Forgive. But you know what, Sister Brown, on this, I have fair underlined, because I'm going to tell y'all something. But the last time I was hurt, I just felt like it was not fair. That word kept coming up. It's not fair. What they said was not true. And it was not fair that that person believed that person over what I said. It was not fair. It's not fair. And so I went through this not fair for a long time. Okay? But I had to get over that and realize my healing is not predicated on whether it's fair or not. And she just brought home right there. That was so good to me. But we have to forgive And it says what? Receiving adequate consequences for their disobedience, but only on my obedience to trust God, justice, whether I ever see it or not. Healing is my choice. Whether we see God vindicate us or whatever, we have to trust God and be obedient and forgive. That was so good.
Yes.
That was so
Yes.
good to me. It's a choice.
Ooh, yes, child.
Yes, definitely so.
It's a choice.
It's a choice. We have to choose to do it. We have to make up in our mind, today, I choose to forgive. And that's part of my daily prayer too. I'm like, today, it's going to be a great day. Today, I choose to love. And today, I choose to walk in forgiveness. That's something that you have to say to yourself daily, because you don't
That's
know
right.
what you're going to be confronted with when you get to work, when you get home, when you're in the grocery store or whatever. But the thing
Right.
is, it's a choice that we have to make as individuals. Is it easy all
Yes.
the time?
No.
No, definitely not.
Absolutely
Yeah.
not.
Mm-mm.
Okay, that was good. All right,
Yeah.
anybody
yeah,
else? Well, the next one, she says, I can heal, I can forgive, I can trust God, and none of those beautiful realities are held hostage by another person. You can allow no one to hold your
Mhm.
deliverance hostage.
Yes.
You have to be
Yes.
willing to make a choice to forgive. And I love it. And then she says, healing will take time. There it goes again, time. It's
Yes.
not going to happen overnight. Stop allowing people to rush you through it. Because it's taking you a long time and you're still crying about it does not mean that you're not walking in the process. It's just taking you longer than anticipated. It's taking you longer than some people. But keep your eyes on the prize. Don't
Right.
be distracted. And it says, but I must move forward towards it if I ever hope to get there. And forgiveness is a good step in the right direction. Not just good, but
Necessary.
Necessary. That's the key word right there. It's necessary.
Necessary.
It's a choice and it's necessary. It's a
Yes.
necessary choice that we have to make no matter how we feel. It's a necessary choice. Anybody got anything to say about that?
Mm.
No.
That was good. That was really good. And I kept on highlighting. Anybody else want to jump
Yes. Yes. Yeah. I got the whole page.
in? Me too.
Yes. The whole page.
When we don't move forward, when we get stuck in our hurt, unable to escape the grip of that threatening pain, trauma takes root. When we keep reliving
what happened.
when we keep reliving what happened in our mind over and over, we keep experiencing the trauma as if it's happening in the present time. Okay, let's stop right there. Now,
Yes.
we know that trauma means to be deeply distressed or
Right.
experience something devastating. So what she's saying is, if we keep reliving it over and over again, we're being devastated all over again, and we're experiencing it as though it's happening for the very first time, which means that we have to make a decision, a choice to stop reliving it. Because every time we relive it, what are we doing? It's like we're cutting ourselves. We're cutting
All over
ourselves. It's
again.
just like being
Right.
for the first time. And we
Self-inflicted.
have to stop doing that. Yes, self-inflicted.
Reopening that
Yes.
wound.
Yes.
Yeah.
Opening that wound so it won't heal.
And all you have
That's
to do
right.
is deal with it. Deal with it and then let it go. And I know it's hard. It's hard. But it is necessary. It is necessary.
Yeah.
Self-destruction, really.
Yes. That's what Sister Brown said. Self-destruction. Self-infliction is what you do when we keep living things over and over again. And then we got to get out this self-pity thing too. Because a lot of times we redo it because we're in self-pity or we want somebody to feel sorry for us. But if somebody who's truly your friend gonna tell you, girl, get up, it's time to move on. I know it hurt. Go through the process. Go through the process. Don't keep reliving it. Don't keep rehashing it. Get over it. And I don't mean like get over it, like girl, go. What I'm saying is go through the process. Let me just rephrase it, because I don't mean to say get over, because that sounds so insensitive, and that's not what I'm trying to tell you to do. What I'm saying is get up, girl, and go through the process so that you can make it to forgiveness. But you cannot keep rehashing it. And if you got a good friend, she's gonna tell you, girl, we ain't gonna think about that right now. Let's talk about how you gonna get through this process. That's what we do.
That's right.
Girl, I know he hurt you, girl. I know you went through this situation. I know the whole ordeal on your job and blah, blah, blah. But girl, we're not gonna concentrate on that right now. What we gonna believe God. But she may not want to hear nothing about God, because we talked about that last week. And that's right. But girl, let's just go get a cup of coffee. Let's talk, let's talk about something else. Let's create a plan. How you're gonna get to the next step and be the best you can be. Right. Because that's what we have to do for our friends, is to be there for them. But back to the book. But then it says, time comes to a screeching halt. Our hearts race with wildly unpredictable and terrifying, uncontrollable pulse, and our brains keep sounding internal alarms that we are no longer safe. This is helpful for a time, as we need to get ourselves out of an immediate danger. But remaining in the mode long term is definitely not healthy. We need to eventually move towards a state, and I'm going to flip the page, a state of healing, of rest. We need to eventually get to the place where we stop replaying over and over what hurt us. Brain and body are programmed to run for home, where safety can be restored and stress hormones can come to rest. And I'm gonna stop right there, because she goes on there, but I want to go back when it says, my ability to heal cannot be conditional on them wanting my forgiveness, but only on my willingness to give it. You gotta give it. Yes, sir. But let's go back to 42, because I did stop at a place where we need to continue on. Anybody else want to continue on there? When it says moving forward, it's not just a good theory. Anybody have that?
Right. I had that also underlined. Moving forward is not just a good theory. Moving forward is crucial. I have read that line in the quote above over and over. Brain and body are programmed to run for home. Home. I am programmed to run for home. And then they gave the scripture, Hebrews 13, that says this. We want to go to a comfort place.
Yes.
Where you feel safe.
Yes.
Where you feel safe and secure, and try to push all these other things, to the side. Yes. And rather than trying to deal with what needs to be dealt with at this very time.
Right. We go to that comfort place because we don't want to deal with it.
That's right.
We don't want to deal with it. So we go in our comfort place. And the truth be told, a lot of us find comfort in food. A lot of us find comfort in things that we shouldn't find comfort in, because we want to escape having to deal with issues that we need to deal with to move towards forgiveness.
That's right.
That's exactly right.
And finding escape ways like that just compounds the problem, because it leads to other problems.
It does.
That's right.
It does. But I like the scripture when she said, for this world is not our permanent home. We're looking forward to a home yet to come. Therefore, let us offer through Jesus a continuous sacrifice of praise to God, proclaiming our allegiance to his name. And don't forget to do good and to share with those in need. These are the sacrifices that please God. Now, may the God of peace, who brought us from the death of our Lord Jesus, the great shepherd of the sheep, and ratified an eternal covenant with his blood, may he equip you with all you need for doing his will. May he produce in you, through the power of Jesus Christ, every good thing that is pleasing to him. So basically, where we should run is to Jesus. That should be our comfort place. But in reality, when we first are hurt, Some of us run to Jesus, but we don't stay there because we allow our flesh to take over. But
some of us just run away from Jesus.
Some of us
don't want nothing to do with them.
Some people run away.
Want to go into isolation.
And go
want to run into isolation.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's really good, but I like what she has at the bottom. She says, "Wow, I look forward to eternity one day. I don't have to wait to live out my heavenly citizenship. I can bring heaven to earth today by living in such a forgiving way that my choices line up with God." And I'm going to stop right there for a moment.
That's right.
Because we can live a forgiving life, a life of forgiveness. But I want to go back to that place called home. It says the brain and body are programmed to run for home. Where will we run? Because in this process, we have to stay on we have to stay on the journey. We can't run anywhere else if we're going to get to the journey called forgiveness. So we can't run and we can't hide. If we are serious about forgiveness, we have to confront, we have to acknowledge, and then we have to deal with it. It's no time to run.
That's right.
That's right.
Because a lot of times, like I said, we have to deal with it. Yep, the person may have done some things to you, but then when you really look at the situation, you might even realize that maybe you had a role or a part in it. You know what I'm saying?
That was so good, Sister Brown, because that's why the process is very necessary. Because that's when God let you know you're not totally innocent. Okay, you have to take accountability for your actions. How did you respond? What did you do?
That's right.
Are you sure you heard that person right? Did you just fly off the handle? Did you allow your mind to play tricks on you? Did you assume? So that's when God really deals with us as individuals. We're not through this process saying, oh, they did this to me, they did that to me. No, God is actually dealing with us on an individual level. And that's why we have to acknowledge not only our feelings, but we have to acknowledge what the Father is showing us.
Right.
That's right.
God, what does the word say? It's like a mirror. We're looking at the word of God. It's like a mirror. And when God is dealing with us and we're going through this process, God is showing us ourselves. We have to acknowledge what he's showing us, and we got to chew it, digest it, and allow him to work on us and live it. And it's not always easy. I'm not going to sit over here and tell you.
A lot of times you don't like what you see. A lot of times you don't like what you see in the mirror.
It's not always pretty.
It's
not always pretty.
It's not always pretty. And it's not always at a point where you're ready to receive it. We have such a gentle Father, but our God knows us best. And he knows when he's ready to be gentle with us, and he knows when he has to give it to us, and so that we can hear him and hear him clearly. That's the kind of God that we serve. He's like a father. He is our Father. He's a good Father. And so we have to be ready to receive it. And this process is not an easy process. And I keep saying this because we're getting it from both ends. We're dealing with our feelings in the flesh, but then we're allowing our Heavenly Father to do a work in us. Because when we come out of this process, we are going to learn a lot. And it's going to become easier for us to forgive. But we have to go through the process, because there's no way you can go through the process and remain the same. You can't.
That's right. That's right.
And instead of always praying that God change them, I know my prayer has been, Lord, to change me, put myself in the spotlight.
That's it. And that's very good, because really what you're saying is, God, I'm taking accountability for my action. I know this transpired, but God, show me.
That's right.
Show me, because God, I'm not innocent.
Because I think this sentence right here says refusing to forgive is refusing the peace of God.
Yeah.
I think that substantiates that. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. Refusing to forgive is refusing the peace of God. Because how can you have peace? Come on, let's think about when we were going through unforgiveness. When that person came around, we didn't have no peace. We're like,
that's right.
Funny.
Sometimes it's necessary that you have to forgive yourself. You want forgiveness from somebody else, But then when God shows it to you in the mirror, Lord,
Yeah.
I need some forgiveness for myself here.
Why did I
Yeah.
make this choice? Why am I making these choices?
That's
God?
right.
I know I failed you. I know I was doing wrong, God. And God, and you're so hard on yourself. And that was so good, Sister Brown. But sometimes God has to love us enough that we'll know that his grace is sufficient. But I don't want to get too head because she talks about that.
That's the tough love. The tough love he has to do with us sometimes.
Yes, we have to forgive ourselves. And we got to know that we are not perfect. And even
We're
though
not.
sometimes our family
We're
may
not.
put us on a pedestal because we've accomplished this and we accomplished that, but you know, you always got those friends and you always got that family member say, oh girl, please, girl, get over yourself. You know,
That's
you got to
right.
remember that if it had
That's
not been
right.
for God, I am what I am because of him, and I have what I have because of him. You know, we take no glory, and we have to always remember that. That was so good. Y'all,
Yes.
okay, y'all stay calm tonight, y'all.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Who has something on page 43?
43.
Because we just talked about the top, but I wanted to I had something else, but I want to see if somebody else had something on 43.
I had hurt feelings.
Yes.
Sometimes
That's
don't want
it.
to cooperate with holy instructions.
Can you say that again, please?
Drop the mic. Hurt feelings. Sometimes don't want to cooperate with holy instructions.
True.
Yes.
Don't want no part of it.
That is so true, because our flesh want to do what it wants to do.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
But it talks about how Jesus shed the blood on the cross for
Yes.
our forgiveness. And so we need to walk in the same forgiveness that he gave us.
Mm.
And we can never obtain it, can never earn it. And if we had to buy it, we couldn't afford it. So because of that, we have to walk in that same forgiveness. And it's hard because it says hurt feelings sometimes don't want to cooperate with holy instructions.
That's right.
Because what is
That's
the word?
right.
Flesh and the spirit war, what? Every day.
Conflict against each other.
That's right.
Other. So, you know, our flesh want to say, no, I ain't gonna forgive. And then the spirit said, girl, you better forgive because that's what God is telling you to do. So it's a
That's
war
right.
going on.
Yes.
And we're going through this process. We're
Yes.
Every day. Every day.
every day.
Yes.
That's right.
So good. Theo, I know Theo, jump in at any time. Theo, what do you have to say about 43? You have anything you want to say?
No, basically I highlighted the same thing that you just said as well.
Mm-hmm.
That was good. That was so good. So let's move on to 44. I'm telling y'all, I have the whole page just about highlighted. She said, I got to go back for a minute because she said, it only makes sense that I include Jesus shed blood into my act of forgiveness when accomplish it on my own feels so hard, maybe even impossible. Jesus makes it possible. I forgive Art, which is her husband, for keeping secrets, and whatever my feelings don't yet allow for, the blood of Jesus will surely cover. And I'll stop right there. Because even when we are not ready, even when we say it, and there's a part of us still holding on, the blood will cover it.
That's right.
And prayer will cover it all. So I love that when she said that. But Nina, go ahead, because I'm going to stop and let you say something. And then
I had jumped all the way down to the bottom of the page.
okay, we can't go to you yet then. Hold on. We got to come back to you because I want to talk to somebody in the middle of the page.
This one sentence was jumping out at me, girl. It was so good.
Somebody in the middle of the page.
Okay, I hold it.
Hold it, please. Hold it. Because I forgave Art for breaking our marriage vows, and whatever my feelings don't yet allow for, the blood of Jesus will surely cover. I forgive Art for betraying my trust, and whatever my feelings don't yet allow for, the blood of Jesus would surely cover. And she said, card after card, I had a marked moment of forgiveness, emptying my heart of all the heavy facts of what happened. It's not that all these were eased from my memory. We'll get to that in just a minute. But doing this one fact at a time freed me from carrying all those unspoken facts which had been tangled up into one large mess that felt way too big to forgive. That was good. That was good. But I want to get to, I know where you're going, Nina.
Because you can be, you know, trying to deal with all, she said she separated them into individual facts.
Mhm.
You know, if you, sometimes it's necessary for you to take them apart and deal with them one-on-one, you know?
That is, you got to analyze, you got to look at the facts.
Right.
And, you know, again, look at the facts, you got to deal with it. And then she says, and I verbalized what happened. I finally felt like I had a voice in the midst of the chaos. She let it out. She vented.
Yeah.
She talked about it. Okay, she got it off her chest. And she felt like, oh, now I don't have to hold it in anymore. I have a voice.
Yes.
And for butterflies who've been holding this in and haven't said anything to anybody, you can go to God in prayer and you can just talk to him, but you can't not keep it inside. You have to let it out. Okay, Nina, back to you.
I ready. You're not quite there yet.
Okay, wait a minute, let me get there. She said, my pain didn't need to be validated by Art or vindicated by anyone else. It just needed to be verbalized, spoken out loud. That was good. She was not looking for vindication. She wasn't looking for somebody to validate what she said. All she wanted to do is have the opportunity to say it out loud.
Just speak
Say it out loud. And we have to speak our truth. We have to say it out loud. We cannot keep it in. And I know I always have something to say. I know I do. But let me just say, but I'm gonna tell y'all something. I am an introvert. Y'all won't believe it. I mean, but when I really know you, I will go for broke. But if I don't know you, I'm very quiet around you. But anyway, to say this, I want to say, I'm serious, but I want to say this. She said she just wanted an opportunity to say it out loud.
Right.
Some of the butterflies, some of you have been holding on to this for a very long time. Let us encourage you on tonight. Get your voice. Say it out loud. Acknowledge the hurt. Acknowledge what you've been through. And don't look for anybody to validate your hurt, or don't look for vindication, but just get it out. Just get it out. All right, Nina, am I near you? Where you want to go?
A little bit more.
Okay, and she said, acknowledge, recognize as real and brought out into the light. Just verbalizing all the pain in a list of facts brought a sense of dignity back into my world. Woo, that was good. That was good. That was good. Because doing all this, she lost herself. She lost herself of self-respect. She lost who she was, and by her voicing how she felt, it gave her a sense of dignity.
Dignity. Her voice back.
Yes.
Right. Lost her voice.
Yes. And when you have a voice, you no longer feel helpless.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so necessary sometimes to verbalize it, to just get it. It may not change, you know, the situation at that moment, but just getting it out helps you to deal with the process of forgiveness. I know several times I've talked to my sister, good Lord, and I'll say to her, I said, look, sis, I said, I just need to get it out. I know you can't change this situation or anything like that, but just getting it out, hearing it, and internalizing it in my head, it makes all the difference in the world so that you can deal with this process of forgiveness.
Yes, yes. Yes, you have to have that person where you can just let it out. Okay, Nina, are we where you want to be?
One more sentence. Here we go.
Okay, and it says, and I realized what it meant to cooperate operate with the forgiveness of Jesus.
Yes.
It meant to see myself as Jesus sees me.
Yes.
Broken,
Yes.
but still chosen and worth forgiveness. That was good. Oh my goodness, I'm trying to control myself. Because
Yes.
even though we're in this state, we are still chosen by Jesus. Oh my
Yes.
goodness, so good. Because he knows us. And we have to
Yes.
see ourselves as Christ sees us.
Yeah.
He still loves us, even though we're going through this, even though we don't want to move. But he knows because we love him, we are going to. But yet, even though we're in here, we're being stubborn and we're not moving, we're still chosen.
You're
And
still
he still
chosen.
loves us and he still forgives us because we serve a merciful God. Oh, that was so good. That was so good. Okay, Nina, go ahead.
And then when she says, and it meant seeing art as Jesus sees him, broken, but still chosen and worth forgiveness. So
Yes.
that made her realize that although Art did what he did, he's still worthy of forgiveness.
He's still
And it's
worthy
up
of
to
forgiveness.
her to make that choice to forgive.
And he is still chosen by God. He was still chosen. He made a mistake, but she had to see him as Christ saw him and that he was still chosen. That was so good. And I think I'm going to get ahead of myself because it's on the next page. But sometimes we have to see that person who hurt us as God sees them. God hasn't finished with them yet, but yet we, the more mature one, have to see that because the Bible tells us that we have to restore those. But sometimes it's hard to restore when you're hurting. You know what I'm saying? So we have to see them as Christ sees them. That's but you know what? At that time we ain't trying to see it. But when we get to Jesus and we go to God and we get to see things as Jesus see it, then we won't see it in our own eyes, but we'll see it from a spiritual standpoint.
And going through the process at first, it hurts.
Yes.
But once you start going to the process, you start to understand the process and you get to the process even faster the next time.
But the thing, that's good. Go ahead. I'm sorry. That's good.
No, you go ahead.
But the thing is time. 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 It is time. Because when we first go through the process, we're angry, we're upset, we want to get revenge, we want to show them. And then God flips the script. He starts showing us ourselves. Then he begins to remind us of what he did for us. And then he begins to show us, you have to see people as I see them. Don't forget, I saw you before you knew who you were. And I saw you as a chosen vessel. So how dare you not forgive when I've forgiven you? See, that's why we going through that process. He takes us through that process.
Yes. And
then it goes through what Nina said, where when we make it through, the next time we're hurt, we don't stay there that long. Because then we remember, Father, okay, Lord, you say I gotta see them as you see them. Now Jesus is right. Say for living, Lord. Just give me a little time. But I'm going through the process again, but it ain't gonna take us that long.
Yes.
And you said it. Time is of the essence.
Yes.
You know, we can't stay there.
Yes.
Because you never know if tomorrow will come. You know? So time is of the essence. We need to ask God to help us to get this process going as quickly and expeditiously as we possibly can. Because we just do not know how much time we have in order to, when we get to the point, think that our process of forgiveness of that other person should start.
Can I say one thing? Look at this bottom. It says, I only need to bring my willingness to forgive, not the fullness of all my restored feelings. And my note was like, you don't have to try to make things the way they were. When you're going through forgiveness, all you have to do is forgive and allow God to do the rest. And a lot of times we think we got to forgive, or before we forgive, we got to get things to the way it was. It may never return back. You may never have that relationship again. You may never have that friendship again. So we have to focus on the forgiveness and not try to get things back to the way it was. That was so good to me. It was good to me. Let's pick up on on the top of 45 when she says, I only needed to bring my willingness to forgive, not the fullness of all my restored feelings. So again, she reminds us, we have to make a choice. It is necessary. We have to be willing to forgive, and we can't look for the relationship to be restored the way it is. That's not the reason why we're forgiving. We're forgiving because that is what God requires. Anybody else have anything highlighted on page 45?
The next paragraph, for whatever my feelings didn't allow the work of Jesus on the cross to cover it. It might take years for my feelings to be sorted out and healed, but the decision of forgiveness didn't have to wait on all of that. Like I said, we think it has to be, we have to be at a certain point for the forgiveness to begin. You know, we visualized in our mind, well, you know, I should be able to come to grips with this, what they might say, how they might respond, you know, if I go to them, you know, with this forgiveness thing.
That was good. That was really good. Anybody else have anything highlighted on page 45?
And I have progress is hard to see when triggered feelings make our vision clouded with intense emotions. Because when those triggers happen, it's like rehashing it back up. And although you have been through the process and you're working towards forgiveness and you are moving, when that trigger happens, it makes you stop and you think you're going backwards. So you have to stay focused, even past the triggers when they come. Just accept them, acknowledge them, but don't get emotionally entangled in them, because they will stop the process.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thea, is there anything that you want to share?
Yeah, the next sentence, and progress with forgiveness can be hard to mark when the anger and confusion from being hurt don't immediately go away when you verbalize a statement of forgiveness. But please know, not only is this normal, it's part of the process.
That is so good.
That's something that I didn't understand for a long time. You know, it's like you want to forgive, but it's like, well, wait a minute, why am I still mad? Why every time, you know, if the person walking, and it's more than one, you know, like more than one relationship, whether it's with family, friends, coworkers, whatever, it's just like, well, you know, why when the person walk into the room, it's like you got to find your way out the room, you know.
That's right.
And it's just like, no, that's why am I walking away? I have nothing to walk away for, you know. So it's like, well, why in the world am I still feeling this way when I already, you know, I mean, what, even though I already said like I'm going to forgive that person, why am I still feeling this way? So once I began to understand that, it did change. It changed a whole lot. Put it that way. It changed a whole lot the way I saw things.
And, you know, I love that when she says, you know, but please know, not only is this normal, it's a part of the process. You know, when you're hurting, when you feel that pain, it does not go away immediately. Even though you're confessing forgiveness, you're still having to go through the process. Even though you're willing to forgive, that pain and hurt may still be there, but you still got to keep moving forward.
That's right. But
it says, what I'm about to share with you is one of the most crucial secrets to staying on the path towards wholeness when you've been deeply wounded. Forgiveness is both a decision and a process. There it goes. You make the decision to forgive the facts of what happened, but then you must also walk through the process of forgiveness for the impact those facts have had on you. So we don't run through the process. We do what? We walk
through the process.
And we can walk at different tempos, different speeds, right? I want to go to the top of page 47, and it says, when triggers occur, the date of the original trauma will feel extremely present all over again. And we talked about that earlier. We have to stop rehashing it. But it says, has it ever happened to you? Me too. And it says, it talks about, you know, when we start to wonder or doubt, is forgiveness really, does it really work? Is it maybe it's for someone else? And she reassures us, that it's not, it's for everyone. Anybody else want to pick up there?
And sometimes you wonder, maybe if you're incapable of this kind of forgiveness with other people, seemingly better people. So you start to think, are they doing it better than I'm doing it? And you start to compare yourself to them in the process.
Mhm.
But we have to realize that everybody goes through it differently. And everybody's process is different and tailor-made so you can get out of it what you need to get out of it. So you can't compare your process with somebody else's process.
Even if they're going through the same situation, your process still will look differently. Even if you feel like, oh, she went through that and she got over it real quick, so how come I'm not going through this? And how come I haven't gotten over it as quick as she has? Because you're not her.
Right.
Everybody have their own journey.
Everybody has their own journey. That is correct, Thea. Thea, do you have anything on 47?
The very next sentence, or maybe we just said the words but never truly meant them deep inside our hearts. So this is basically where it was a starting point for me right there. Because sometimes you say it, but you still, because of those emotions and stuff, it's just like it's kind of like you're just going through the motions.
Mm-hmm.
You're saying it, but in that moment, you still don't really mean it.
Right, right.
See, so it's just like, huh?
Because the pain is still there.
Exactly. Yeah.
But I also like what she said, with the decision to forgive doesn't fix all the damaged emotions. It doesn't automatically remove the anger, frustration, doubt, damage, trust, or fear. To work on these emotions, we must now start the process of forgiving that person for the impact. Remember, the decision to forgive acknowledges the fact of what happened. But the much longer journey of forgiveness is around all the many ways these facts affected you, the impact they created. So that means this journey is not an easy journey. It's not a short journey, but we have to experience some things through this journey.
That's right.
Right. It's a cause and effect.
Yes. Very good.
This happened as a result, then this is how it affects my life.
Absolutely. That's good. That was good. That was good. And we have to deal with it. Let's look at 52. Anybody have anything on 52?
I went, I guess all about 3/4 of the page down where it says, the longer I work on my healing, the more perspective I can bring into those triggered feelings. They aren't as consuming and intense as they once were. They still bother me because they come with built-in energy that threatens to take me somewhere I don't want to go. They can still make me want to cry, shut down, or feel afraid or threatened. But now I've gotten so much better about sitting in the space between the feeling and the reaction. It's not always so immediate, and it doesn't completely derail me like these triggers feelings used to. So I sit with the feeling and take time to sort it out. I'm better able to discern what the feeling is and what to do with it. I have a series of questions that help me sort through the process. And that's basically just saying, as time goes on, the trigger may come up, but as you've been working through the process, then you can talk yourself through it.
Yes.
And not completely become derailed when that trigger shows itself. Mm-hmm.
Yes. And I had something highlighted a little bit towards the beginning of that page, when the surgeon who operated on me later said that when he cut me open, the trauma was so severe, it looked like I had been hit by a bus. Most of us will never see the visual reality of what holding on to our pain, resentment, and unforgiveness looks like. But I've seen some of the pictures from my surgery, and I'm more convinced than ever, emotional trauma hits us with as much severity and impact at just about anything else.
Isn't that something?
Yes, it takes its toll on us, on
Yeah.
our physical being. I can
Physical,
personally, yes,
mental,
mentally, yes.
emotional, and it sneaks up on you because you don't physically see it right away, but it sneaks up over time because it builds up and builds up, and it gets to a place where you just can't take it anymore. I like to say it's never the last straw that broke the camel's back. It's everything that built up, and that last straw was just the last straw.
That's good. That's really good. That's really good. And I like that because we have to, again, we talked about that before, that this unforgiveness, it affects us. Like you said, emotionally, physically, spiritually, mentally, it affects us. It does.
In every way.
Thea, do you have anything on 52?
Well, the same things that y'all had highlighted.
Okay, what about on 53?
Let's see. Okay, yes. I'll then remember that the hurt they caused was most likely from hurt they carried. It doesn't justify their actions, but it does help me have compassion for the hurt that they have surely suffered. I don't have to know any of the details of what happened in their past. I can just let the realization shift my thoughts from what they did to how they must have hurt. And in that compassion, I find a commonality that we are both humans trying to find our way.
I love that because it goes back to hurt people.
Yes.
Yes.
And
that's so true.
But Thea, what were your thoughts on that?
Well, that's what I was getting. I was going to go back up there to say that part about what you just said about it goes back to people that's hurting themselves, wind up taking that unresolved hurt and putting it on someone else, basically. Yeah. So as we talked about before, if it doesn't get dealt with, that's what is going to continue to happen. You're going to keep on taking it out on those who, on other people.
Right.
Yeah.
And really, and like you said, in order for us to have healthy friendships or healthy families, we have to deal with the issues so that we can move past. Because when we're dealing with unforgiveness, we don't trust people. We're always paranoid. And who wants to be around a person like that? So we have to know to be able to deal with this and not be that person who pass on hurt to other people because we have unresolved hurt within us, or we're walking around in unforgiveness. So that was really, really good. What I see is, for now, I realize the hurt that passed through them to me is a more epic moment of opportunity than I ever realized. That hurt can pass through me and be unleashed on others, or it can be stopped by me right here, right now. The world can become a little darker or a little brighter just by the peace I make in this moment. So we can make a difference. We can make an impact in our community, in our homes, in our church, wherever we are, if we choose to walk in forgiveness and walk in the healing that will come out of the process. But if we start the process and decide it's getting a little too much and we don't want to face it, we don't want to acknowledge it, we don't want to deal with it, then we're going to hurt others. So I employ every person who's watching, go through the process with us. Don't be fool butterflies. We are going through the process. We are being confronted ourselves. We're doing a second look at some things that we've dealt with in the past and say, okay, did I deal with this correctly? So you're not by yourself. We're all going through this process together. We're going through this process together. And so we're just sharing our truth on the show. But we're going through this process and we want you to go with us. All right. Anything else on page 53?
I just like how she said that, that the hurt that they caused was most likely from the hurt they carried. It doesn't justify their actions. So she's not making an excuse for them at all, but it is giving her compassion towards that person. Maybe to see them see things from a different perspective without being too harsh on them.
Mhm. I love that. I love that, Via. And I also like when she said at the bottom, she says, so I bow my head and mentally pull out a 3x5 card and the red felt squares incorporated with the forgiveness of the Lord. I forgive this person for how their actions back then are still impacting me now. And whatever my feelings don't yet allow for, the blood of Jesus will surely cover. Another act of forgiveness means even more healing and clarity. Another intentional brushstroke of beauty, slowly replacing the darkness with hues of healing light. That's awesome. That's awesome.
And you can just picture that.
Mhm.
She just paints so clear pictures of replacing the darkness and replacing the ugliness with the beauty of Jesus, and it just makes you want to forgive to get to that place.
Yes, but you got to go through the process of butterflies. We hope that you got something out of our discussion on tonight. Don't stop moving. Stay on this journey with us. Don't give up now because we're too close. We're too close to get to the journey called forgiveness. So butterflies, I want to share a quote with you. And it says, it's not an easy journey to get to a place where you forgive people, but it's such a powerful place because it frees you. And this is by Tyler Perry. So butterflies, let's get to this place called forgiveness together.
Yeah.
Until next time, close the door on yesterday and walk boldly into what lies ahead. And remember, be blessed and flutter your wings. Bye-bye.
Subscribe to Transparency with Janet Sykes. Then click the bell so you don't miss a notification. Afterwards, like Transparency with Janet Sykes on Facebook. Connect with our group, Butterflies of Transformation, while you're there. Be blessed.